In this short video, you're about to discover something that might surprise you. Some may find it alarming or even shocking, while others might dismiss it as just a coincidence. The total solar eclipse on April 8, 2024 could be seen as just another interesting event in the sky. However, there's a deeper meaning to this celestial occurrence. Hi, I'm Jerry from Passion for Truth Ministries. For over 20 years, I've dedicated myself to exploring the Hebraic roots of the Christian faith, striving to follow biblical teachings in a faithful manner. Through this journey, I've come to realize that God's calendar is different from the one we use today. His holy days are not the same as the holidays created by the Roman Gentile Church. These feasts are powerful, centered around Christ, and carry prophetic significance. They have transformed my life, my family's life, and the lives of millions of believers worldwide who are attuned to God's message. God's prophetic feast days serve as the foundation for understanding prophecy. They are the true clock that brings perfect rhythm to all of creation. Trying to comprehend prophecy without considering His calendar is like stumbling in the dark. It's essential to align ourselves with God's timing to fully understand His plan for us. Before we dive in, let's start with a quick poll to gauge where you stand. If you think these solar eclipses are meaningful messages from a higher power, type "from God" in the comments. If you think they're just coincidences, type "coincidence." And if you're unsure, type "not sure." The upcoming video reveals fascinating patterns that align with the Hebrew calendar of the Bible. It's truly remarkable, and if you're open to it, it might inspire you to take a specific action. Let's get started. I personally believe that the Gog-Magog war is linked to these rare solar eclipses. Later in this broadcast, I'll share my findings and explain how it could potentially change your life. It's almost unbelievable and could profoundly impact how you live from now on. Make sure to stick around because everything I discuss will lead to this pivotal moment. First and foremost, let's delve into why God created the sun, moon, and stars. In Genesis 1:14 it states, "Then God said, 'Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years.'" The term seasons here in Hebrew is moadim, which doesn't refer to spring, summer, fall, or winter, but rather to God's appointed feast days, like Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Shavuot, also known as Pentecost, trumpets, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. So the primary purpose for placing these celestial bodies in the sky was to guide us in our rendezvous with Him. This is why Paul mentions in 1 Thessalonians that although the Lord's return will be unexpected, we can discern the times and seasons. And because these occasions revolve around the first and second coming of the Messiah, they are intricately intertwined with prophecy. Additionally, God mentioned that they serve as signs, implying signals or omens. Therefore, the sun, moon, and stars serve as indicators, cautionary signals, and predictors of the two significant moments when the Messiah would grace the earth. First, as a humble shepherd and suffering servant sacrificing his life for his flock, and second, as a triumphant king set on redeeming his bride. This celestial signal was accompanied by a tremendous earthquake that shook the temple and tore the veil in two, separating the holy place from the Holy of Holies. Revelation 6:12 describes, "I looked when He opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood." Here we observe yet another correlation between an earthquake and a solar and lunar eclipse. The mention of the moon becoming like blood refers to a blood-red moon which occurs during a total lunar eclipse. In Zechariah 14:6-7 it says, "It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no more light. The lights will diminish. It shall be one day which is known to the Lord, neither day nor night. But at evening time it shall happen that it will be light." Joel 2:10 also speaks of a time when the sun and the moon will grow dark and the stars will lose their brightness. Throughout the Bible, these descriptions suggest that solar and lunar eclipses are often associated with significant and sometimes ominous events. Many Native American cultures also view total solar eclipses as either bad omens or as heralding a period of transition and renewal. The Bible frequently links solar and lunar eclipses with pivotal moments in human history. often signaling the culmination of important events. Later on, I'll explain how the eclipses of 2017 and 2024 are directly linked to the Gog and Magog war of prophecy. It's remarkable how God has intricately woven the end times narrative, even placing a timeline in the sky above us every night. For now, let's quickly review one of the most renowned and rarest lunar events, the tetrad blood-red lunar eclipses. These are crucial elements in the end times narrative, where 4 lunar eclipses occur consecutively in 2 consecutive years, as Mark Biltz first highlighted. What's truly intriguing is when these tetrad eclipses align with the biblical holidays of Passover and Sukkot for 2 consecutive years. When this occurs, it's a signal to pay close attention. As the Native Americans suggest, these times can signify both conflict and renewal, and history bears this out. Since the time of Christ, there have only been 8 occurrences of these blood-red moons aligning with biblical holidays, and they have often coincided with world-changing events. These eclipses can act as a precursor to a significant event, or serve as a confirmation that a recent event was significant in God's plan. For instance, in 162 AD, a set of these lunar eclipses appeared on Passover, coinciding with Rome's commencement of war with the Parthians. Similarly, in 795, another set occurred on Passover and Sukkot, marking the beginning of the Saxon War. One of the most notable of these eclipses happened on Passover in 1492, just 2 weeks before the Catholic monarchs of Spain initiated the expulsion of Jews from Spain, known as the Spanish Inquisition. Interestingly, Columbus set sail on August 2nd of that year, the very date set for the Jews' expulsion, and his crew was predominantly Jewish. This fact raises questions about Columbus's own Jewish heritage, which could significantly alter our understanding of American history. Notably, Columbus arrived in America at the start of the Feast of Sukkot, a significant holiday representing the birth of Christ and the future marriage supper of the Lamb. This timing coincides with a broader discussion about the true birth date of Jesus. If you're interested in exploring this further, I recommend watching the linked teaching. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to stay updated on similar content in the future. Imagine this after 1492, the next time we saw a series of 4 blood moons, known as a tetrad, aligning with Passover, and Sukkot was in 1948, the year Israel became a nation. Then, in 1967, during the Six-Day War, when Jerusalem became the capital of the newly reborn Israel, we witnessed another tetrad. It's incredible to think about. Wars followed by remarkable rebirths. Moving closer to our time, the well-known blood moons of 2014 and 2015 appeared to pass without major conflicts. But if we look a bit deeper, we see a different story. Following these eclipses, we witnessed the rise of ISIS, the global Ebola outbreak, Israel's conflict with Hamas in Gaza, and America's internal turmoil sparked by the tragic death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. These events marked a turning point, signaling a period of intense civil unrest that continues to shake America today. Let's not forget the global impact of the C virus, which some believe was a precursor to the rise of a dark, beastly system, the Antichrist's reign. Looking ahead, the next tetrad of lunar eclipses is predicted to occur in 2032 and 2033, coinciding with what some say is the 2000-year anniversary of Christ's resurrection. Remarkably, the third eclipse in this series will fall on the very day of Passover, the day Christ died. This is not just about the Jewish calendar. It's about God's calendar, meant for all who follow him, dating back to the beginning of time, even written in the stars. Isn't it fascinating how these celestial events seem to align with such pivotal moments in history? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's delve into the intriguing connection between the lunar eclipses and prophecy. Many of you have been eagerly anticipating the rare eclipses of 2017 and 2024, which form an X across the United States. Do these events hold prophetic significance? Could they be signaling the end times? We're about to explore these questions. The excitement around the 2024 solar eclipse actually began in August 2017. On August 21, 2017, the the sun traversed the entire United States, starting in Salem, Oregon, and crossing through the Midwest before exiting through South Carolina on the East Coast. What made this eclipse even more captivating was that precisely as the sun was setting in Jerusalem, it was rising over Salem, Oregon. Interestingly, the ancient name for Jerusalem. The Bible mentions 36 cities in the United States named Salem, and the path of the 2017 eclipse intersected with exactly 7 of them. The number 7 holds significant meaning in Scripture, symbolizing perfection. It's not mere coincidence that a solar eclipse passed through 7 Salems in 2017, especially during the Hebrew year 5777, which further underscores the spiritual significance of these events. Many people aren't aware that eclipses are organized into what's known as a Saros cycle for easy tracking. The solar eclipse of 2017, for instance, was part of Saros 145, which is quite remarkable. It encompasses exactly 77 different eclipses throughout its cycle, with the 2017 event being the 22nd eclipse. Additionally, 2017 marked the 50th anniversary of Jerusalem being recognized as the capital of Israel. Notably, just 107 days later, the United States, under the leadership of a 71-year-old president, made history by officially recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. These events paint a fascinating picture. Delving deeper, we find more instances of the number 7. In Hebrews chapter 7, Melchizedek is described as the king of Salem, where Malchi means king and Zedek means righteousness, a clear reference to Yeshua, Jesus. This ties into the concept of a perfect king of righteousness ruling over Jerusalem, leading up to a significant moment. What's truly astonishing is the message conveyed by the path of totality of the eclipse. The last city it passes through before reaching totality is Jacob, Illinois, which is located in an area known as Little Egypt. Within the 5-mile radius of maximum totality lies all of Little Egypt, including Devil's Lake, W Egypt, and Giant City National Park. Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, is the last city the eclipse passes through before converging over Little Egypt, the only place in the world with that name. This alignment, following its path through 7 cities with the ancient name of Jerusalem, is nothing short of extraordinary. Let's take a moment to explore Little Egypt further. But first, let's shift our focus to the April 8, 2024 eclipse, which is like the twin sister of the 2017 eclipse. It's unprecedented. Never before has an eclipse traversed the entire contiguous United States and then 7 years later repeated the journey in the opposite direction, forming a striking X across the heartland. This eclipse belongs to Saros 139, which spans an impressive 71 total eclipses over nearly 1,000 years. Now here's where it gets intriguing. In the Bible, only 2 words appear exactly 71 times: Elijah and Hebron. Elijah, revered as the greatest prophet, and Hebron, the resting place of patriarchs like Abraham and Isaac. Just as Elijah's name appears 71 times in Scripture, this eclipse too occurs 71 times within its cycle. Moreover, out of the 71 eclipses, the 2024 event happens to be the 30th, linking it to a profoundly significant number in biblical prophecy, and to the age of Yeshu when he began his ministry. While the 2017 eclipse showcased 7 cities named Salem and reached its peak over Little Egypt in southern Illinois, the 2024 eclipse raises the stakes by passing through an additional 26 Salem-named cities. In total, the 2 total solar eclipses will pass over exactly 33 out of the 36 Salem-named cities, a number deeply intertwined with the crucifixion of the Messiah at the age of 33. Why not all 36 Salems? I believe that 3 were left outside the darkness to symbolize the 3 years Yeshu spent in Salem, Jerusalem, which were not in darkness while he was there. So we have an eclipse marking the start of his ministry, another for the end of his ministry, and the remaining 3 Salems representing the years of Yeshua's light shining in Jerusalem. It's truly remarkable. Amasya, the land of the Hittites from the Bible, holds significant historical connections. It was where Ottoman princes, descendants of Esau, were trained in governance during the Ottoman Empire. According to Wikipedia, Amasya was also the site of final planning meetings for the formation of a Turkish army in 1919. This is noteworthy because Amasya could play a role in the prophesied Gog and Magog war against Israel before the Messiah's coming. The descendants of Esau, long-standing enemies of Jacob, add an intriguing layer to this historical tapestry. Interestingly, just 6 days after the eclipse over Amasya, one of the largest earthquakes in Turkish history struck, claiming 12,000 lives. Additionally, I felt compelled to measure the exact distance between Amasya and the epicenter of totality for the 2024 eclipse in America. To my surprise, it was precisely 6,000 miles. The number 6 is often associated with humanity, and according to prophecy, there are 6,000 years of human history. This alignment of points on the X being exactly 6,000 miles apart seems more than just a mere coincidence. It's a mathematical impossibility that begs further consideration. Consider this: the only times in history that Saros 139 and 145 eclipses intersect and form an X is over Turkey and then over America. One eclipse highlights the region associated with the seed of Satan mentioned in Revelation, while the other emphasizes Jerusalem through 33 cities named Salem. Jacob and Little Egypt, metaphorically delivered from the giant city and the devil's kitchen, add to the profound symbolism. It's clear that God is sending a message through these celestial signs. But the 2024 eclipse is not the only celestial event linked to the number 71. Remarkably, after 71 years, a comet named 12P Pon Brooks will pass by Earth. This comet, known as the Devil's Comet, appears once every 71 years and will be positioned near the Sun on April 8, 2024. Interestingly, a comet was also visible in 1811 before the New Madrid earthquake. From Devil's Lake to the Devil's Comet, these events seem to highlight Egypt, Jerusalem, Jonah, and Nineveh. Curiosity led me to explore the night sky further. Using Starium Decem's online software, I was amazed to see all 8 planets aligning in the western sky, with the Devil's Comet perfectly in line with the Sun, adding another layer of intrigue to these celestial occurrences. So what's the significance of all these events? I can't say for certain. What I do know is that these coincidences are defying all odds. Yet there's one event still on the horizon, an event so rare that it hasn't occurred in thousands of years. If it happens, it could be the precursor to the arrival of the Antichrist. I'll reveal this event in just a moment, as it's set to occur this year. But before I do, I want to hear from you. What do you think these signs signify? Could they be a warning of judgment coming to America? Do they suggest impending war or earthquakes? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you feel led, tell me how you believe God is guiding you to prepare for what may come. One thing is certain: America has lost its way, and history shows that judgment often begins with the household of God. Consider this verse from Ezekiel about future judgment, where God marks the foreheads of those who will be spared. Ezekiel 9:4 states, "Go through the midst of the city, throughout the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over all the abominations that are done within it." Interestingly, the word mark in this verse is Tav, the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This same letter is placed on the foreheads of those who abhor the sins of their land and seek God's mercy. It's fascinating that this letter is also positioned over the center of the entire United States. The connections that can be drawn from this are profound. It's fascinating to note that there are only 7 cities in the entire United States named Nineveh. The path of the 2024 eclipse directly crosses over 2 of them, with 4 more lying just outside the totality zone. Nineveh, famously warned by Jonah of its impending doom unless it repented, holds significant biblical symbolism. Interestingly, there are only 2 cities named Jonah in the entire US, and the 2024 eclipse passes directly over one of them in Texas. Could this be a subtle warning for modern America, akin to Nineveh, to change its ways or face divine judgment? It certainly seems possible. The 4 Nineveh-named cities just outside the total darkness zone could symbolize a window of opportunity for repentance. In 2017, the eclipse's maximum totality occurred over Little Egypt, while its epicenter was near Devil's Kitchen and Egypt Lake. Remarkably, the 2024 eclipse precisely intersects with the 2017 eclipse in southern Illinois, With its epicenter, the X marks a spot, directly over a single road in a national forest just west of Devil's Kitchen. And what's the name of this road? Salem Road. Out of countless roads, it points to Salem Road, the ancient name for Jerusalem. This alignment against all odds adds to the profound symbolism of these celestial events. While much of the focus has been on the two solar eclipses intersecting in the heart of the United States, there's another significant event to consider. In October 2023, an annular solar eclipse crossed the lower southwest of the US, coinciding with the first week of the war between Israel and Hamas. When we overlay the 2023 eclipse with those from 2017 and 2024, something remarkable emerges. While many might not immediately see a connection, ancient Israelites would recognize the shape formed by these eclipses as the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph. However, King David would see it differently. He'd view it as the last letter, Tav. This revelation is astonishing. In ancient Hebrew, Aleph signifies strength of the leader, while Tav, the final letter, means the mark or covenant. Together, Aleph and Tav signify the leader of the covenant or the strength of the mark. This holds profound meaning, especially considering that Yeshua is referred to as the Alpha and Omega, the Aleph and Tav. This symbolism suggests that God is signaling his Son's presence across the entire United States, indicating the imminent arrival of the leader of the covenant. He is the King of Salem, Jerusalem, the Aleph Tav judge, and the strength of the mark that will soon be upon the foreheads of his saints. This serves as a warning to America that our light will fade if we do not turn away from our sinful ways. So why do I see this as a warning? Well, not only does the Bible connect eclipses to judgment and end times events, but history also offers some compelling insights. When I dug into past total solar eclipses that crossed American soil, I was astonished to find that since the founding of the country in 1776, there have only been 8 such eclipses. Remarkably, each of these occurrences was associated with war and pestilence. In the 1700s, there was the Revolutionary War. In the 1800s, the Civil War unfolded, and during the 1970s, America was embroiled in the Vietnam War. This consistent pattern spanning thousands of years suggests that total eclipses often bring ominous signs. One of the last times these eclipses formed an X over the United States was in 1806 and 1811. 3 months after the second eclipse in December 1811, the largest earthquake in the mainland United States occurred, causing the Mississippi River to flow backward and triggering the start of the infamous War of 1812 just 6 months later. Experts warn that if a similar earthquake were to occur today, it would devastate everything in its path, sending a massive earthwave 200 miles in every direction. Remarkably, the X formed by the solar eclipses of 2017 and 2024 sits directly over the New Madrid fault line for the first time in American history. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Remember when we discussed the Hebrew letter Tav and its resemblance to a modern-day X? Well, Tav is the 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Now consider this. The 2017 eclipse was the 22nd in the 77 eclipse cycle, and its total duration was 2 minutes and 22 seconds over Mari and Illinois in Little Egypt that year. Personally, this holds significance for me as my spiritual number is 222, derived from 2 Timothy 2:2, my life verse. Interestingly, I found myself unintentionally stationed in Maran, Illinois that year, and I was the 222nd person assigned to that particular place. We all experience our moments with God in life, and that was certainly one of mine. All right, brace yourself for what comes next because it's truly remarkable and I'll admit, a bit unsettling. Most believers familiar with prophecy know about the great Gog and Magog war against Israel foretold in Ezekiel 38:39, set to occur at the end of time. Many scholars identify the nations involved as Russia and Turkey, marching from the north to invade Israel. Now, you're aware of the 2024 eclipse crossing the path of the 2017 eclipse, forming an X over America. But what's less known is that the same eclipse cycles repeat 18 years earlier, 6 + 6 + 6, in Turkey, a region associated with the seed of Satan in the book of Revelation. Both form an X in their respective countries, Both occur on Nisan 1, which we'll delve into shortly, and both last 2 minutes and 22 seconds, one in Little Egypt and the other in Bucharest, Turkey. The epicenter of the X over Turkey lies in a city called Amasya. Interestingly, this city was once the capital of all the kings of Pontus in the 3rd century BC and was originally inhabited by the Hittites mentioned in the Bible. During the Ottoman Empire, Amasya served as a training ground for Ottoman princes, descendants of Esau, to learn governance. Remarkably, Wikipedia reveals that Amasya was where the final planning meetings for the formation of a Turkish army took place in 1919. Did you catch that? Amasya was the birthplace of the Turkish army, destined to play a role in the last great Gog and Magog war against Israel before the Messiah's coming. Adding to the intrigue, just 6 days after the eclipse over Amasya, one of the deadliest earthquakes in Turkish history struck, claiming 12,000 lives. As if that wasn't enough, I felt compelled to measure the distance between Amasya and the epicenter of totality for the 2024 eclipse here in America, and to my astonishment, it was exactly 6,000 miles, right on the dot. With 6 symbolizing humanity and prophecy suggesting 6,000 years of human history, the precise alignment of these points on the X, exactly 6,000 miles apart, defies simple dismissal as mere coincidence. Let's pause for a moment and consider this remarkable alignment. There have only been 2 instances in history where solar eclipses have formed an X, over Turkey and then over America. One seems to highlight the region associated with the seed of Satan mentioned in Revelation, while the other emphasizes Jerusalem through 33 cities named Salem, along with Jacob and Little Egypt being delivered from darkness. It's as if God is sending a message through these celestial signs, a message that we can't afford to ignore. But the story doesn't end there. The 2024 eclipse, part of a series of 71 eclipses, isn't the only cosmic event tied to the number 71. Astonishingly, after 71 years, a comet named 12P/Pons-Brooks will pass by Earth. This comet, appearing only once every 71 years, coincidentally appears next to the Sun on April 8, 2024, and its nickname, the Devil's Comet. Interestingly, a comet was also visible in 1811, just before the New Madrid earthquake. From Devil's Lake to the Devil's Comet, it seems that these events are highlighting significant places and figures like Egypt, Jerusalem, Jonah, and Nineveh. Curious about what else the night sky might reveal, I turned to Starium Diom's online software to observe the night sky from Little Egypt in Illinois. I was astounded by what I saw. Not only were all 8 planets lined up in the west, but the Devil's Comet was also perfectly aligned with the Sun. These celestial alignments continue to astound and intrigue, offering us glimpses into the mysteries of the universe. So what does all this mean? Well, I can't say for certain, but what I do know is that all of these coincidences are adding up in a way that defies the odds. There is one event still to come, an event that hasn't occurred in thousands of years, an event so significant that if it happens, it could be the precursor to ushering in the Antichrist himself. I'll reveal what this event is shortly. It's scheduled for this year. But before I do, I'd like to ask you, what do you make of all this so far? Do you think it suggests that judgment is looming over America? Could it mean war, earthquakes? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you feel comfortable, let me know how you believe God is guiding you to prepare for these potential events. One thing we can be certain of is that America has lost its way, and historically, judgment has always begun with the household of God. Consider this verse from Ezekiel that speaks of future judgment and how God marks those who are to be spared. Ezekiel 9:4 says, "Go throughout the city of Jerusalem and put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over all the detestable things that are done in it." Interestingly, the word mark in this verse is tav, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. This same letter is said to be placed on the foreheads of those who abhor sin in their land and pray for God's mercy, and it is now positioned over the heart of the United States. The connections here are profound. As mentioned earlier, the 2024 eclipse falls on Nisan 1, a crucial day in biblical prophecy. This day marks not only the beginning of God's religious calendar, but also a day in 2 Chronicles 29. 2:3, when the temple was cleansed from the defilement of former kings. Can we draw a parallel today with the cleansing needed from the actions of former presidents? In Ezra 7:9, we see Ezra leading a group of people from Babylon on Nisan 1 back to Jerusalem to restore the temple system. It was also on this day that Persian King Cyrus issued a decree allowing Nehemiah to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall. Nisan 1 was not only a day for cleansing and rebuilding the temple, but also the day when the new temple, Yeshua, Jesus, was baptized and began to establish his kingdom on earth. Remarkable. While it's significant that the final eclipse falls on Nisan 1, what's more significant is that it occurs just 13 days before Passover, when God delivered his people from certain death in the original Egypt through the blood of the Lamb. Is it merely a coincidence that these solar eclipses over America pass through 33 of the 36 Salems, and that the epicenter of God's mark is over a place called Little Egypt, right at the time of Passover? I believe the signs are clear. Another Exodus is on the horizon, and we must prepare and understand the signs of the times. We must repent of our sins and return to following the ways of the Bible in our lives. Friends, there's another significant event that these eclipses could be pointing to, the sign of the red heifer. Many who study biblical prophecy understand that before the Great Tribulation begins, it is prophesied that the third temple will be in operation. Daniel 9:27 tells us that halfway through the 7-year peace treaty signed in Israel, the Antichrist will halt the daily sacrifice. For this to occur, there must already be a sacrificial system in place. This requires the offering of a perfect red heifer as mandated by Torah law, which is then used to cleanse all the components of the newly inaugurated temple. Finding a kosher red heifer has been a challenge since Israel's inception. But in the past year, this has changed. Israel now has 4 red heifers flown in from Brazil, ready to be sacrificed. What's intriguing is that these 4 were born in 2018, the same year the American embassy moved to Jerusalem, and exactly 70 years after Israel's founding. According to Jewish tradition, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed in history. Interestingly, the first 7 were sacrificed on the Mount of Olives directly east of the Temple Mount, while the last 2 were sacrificed on the Temple Mount itself, directly over the spot where the Holy of Holies once stood. An archaeological dig revealed that the original location of the Holy of Holies was actually 18 inches off from previous estimates. This means that the 10th red heifer must be sacrificed exactly 18 inches west of where the last 2 were sacrificed, directly over the rock where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac. So what could all of this signify? Are we on the brink of witnessing Yeshua's return in the clouds to gather his followers before the tribulation starts? Could it signal the realization of the Great Commission and the prophecy of a vast spiritual harvest? Is the Antichrist poised to establish